Welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Nicole Gutierrez. Our Cronkite News reporters work in teams to cover specific issues important to all Arizonans. Tonight, we highlight stories from the government and justice team, reports on public affairs, legislation, law enforcement, and the people working to make our communities safer.
Fear, shock, and uncertainty can inhibit your ability to take action and save yourself in any active shooter situation. Cronkite News reporter Megan Meyer shares with us how local police hope to prepare the public.
What can seem like another typical day on campus can turn to one of chaos and fear in a matter of minutes. Active shooters can strike at any time and any place. Crime Prevention Coordinator for the Arizona State Police Department, Charles Ebersbacher, is helping people be more prepared using materials from the Center for Personal Protection and Safety.
If anybody sees the news, I mean, you just see that it's happening more and more regularity. And it just becomes that much more imperative that people are trained on, a few of the basics just to be able to protect themselves better. And
Ebersbacher shares that evacuating the scene should always be the first response, but that may not always be possible.
The biggest theme that was being spoken was having a survivor mindset of thinking about yourself first, which I think is hard for a lot of people, but getting out of thinking, okay, what can I do to protect myself and move forward?
Experts say in order to survive an active shooter situation, one must follow the key principle of run, hide, fight.
this is certainly not just for the college campus. This is also for day-to-day life when you're at work, when you're in the movie theater, when you're in the grocery store. I mean, it's all lessons learned that can be applied in all those situations.
Knowing the smart steps to take could be the difference between life and death. In Tempe, Megan Meyer, Cronkite News.
Emotions ran high among community members at a forum with Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone last night. Olivia Richard attended the meeting.
It was standing room only at the community meeting Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone held last night. Penzone said the forum's purpose was to bridge the gap in understanding between the community and the Sheriff's Department. There was no shortage of emotion and no words spared at the community meeting held by Maricopa County Sheriff's Office last night.
Here to expose the fact that you are just as bad, if not worse, than Arpaio.
The topic on everyone's mind?
When are you going to get eyes on what's happening?
For them, Sheriff Paul Penzone had a harsh reality to deliver.
Boys will not be coming out of the jail with certain changes in immigration laws. We are still a nation of laws.
Person after person took the mic, sharing stories of tragedy from the past.
It's a very weak defense because they know when somebody goes in there through the fingerprinting and everything they do, they know when somebody is somebody that's very dangerous to the community.
Penzone promised to look into any issues and asked the community to move forward with him.
This will be an effort by all of us because no one person can make this change.
Sheriff Penzone encouraged attendees who had issues with the deputies to file formal complaints with his office so that they could be investigated. In the broadcast center, Olivia Richard, Cronkite News.
Arizona could become the 10th state in the U.S. to ban so-called conversion therapy on LGBT teens. I spoke with Arizona Senator Sean Bowie to see why he thinks this ban could save lives.
And conversion therapy is the idea that young people who are LGBT, that their sexual orientation can be cured away or converted away.
Converted using techniques like induced nausea and electric shock. That's why Arizona Senator Sean Bowie wants to halt these practices on Arizona's LGBT teens.
This was an example of a protection that we wanted to bring in place for our young people so they wouldn't have to endure this kind of harmful practice.
Senator Bowie says he was inspired by states like Nevada and New Mexico, the states shown here in green, where governors on both political sides signed similar bills, according to the Movement Advancement Project.
We want to make sure that our young LGBT community are safe and protected and not discriminated against because of their sexual orientation.
A poll by Hart Research Associates found that 59% of Arizona voters don't want conversion therapy practiced in the state, and the experts we found are against it too.
Now, what is the point? There is absolutely no empirical evidence.
Nurse practitioner of psychiatry Denitza Oparnica sees clients who have gone through conversion therapy. She says treatment can actually add to their emotional distress.
A lot of therapy and antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications
Senator Bowie says this bill will bring awareness to the fight he says LGBT teens go through every day.
Senator Bowie hopes to have the bill passed by April.
5 years ago, one of the water pipes at Willow Beach National Fish Hatchery broke, forcing the hatchery to stop stocking rainbow trout in the Colorado River. As part of our Access Across Arizona initiative, Cronkite News has been tracking an uncertain financial future in Mojave County due to this lack of trout. This week, reporter Emily Richardson returned to Willow Beach to see what has changed.
Rusty Brown owns a tackle shop in Bullhead City, and a few years ago, his shop and the county faced economic problems when the Willow Beach hatchery stopped releasing trout into the river.
We were having people not wanting to come here because they recreation to this area, not just for the gambling in the casinos, but while the wives are at the slot machine, the husband likes to go out and fish.
We knew that we had to quickly ramp up because we had been told that fishermen, once they kind of leave their favorite fishing hole and find a new place, they'll never return.
County Supervisor Hildy Angus worked with Senator John McCain, Congressman Paul Gosar, and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to find money for a new pipeline system. According to Tom Frew, the assistant hatchery manager, the new system is more reliable and has an alarm to alert them if anything should happen again.
It's been running flawless. We've had really good success in the good water flow.
And while the county's economy has seemed to pick up, the lack of trout created an invasion of caddisflies in Bullhead City.
And the trout eat the larvae that's in the river, and then there very few actually make it to hatching. But because there were no trout in the river, even for that short time, we had an influx of this caddisfly.
Even though things aren't perfect, Rusty is happy to be creating memories while continuing to run his store.
Families and kids are being able to come and catch fish. It's just the neatest thing, you know, when you see some little kid with the first fish that they've ever caught.
In Bullhead City, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
The county supervisor says that the caddisfly could become a health hazard in the future because they mummify and become a powder that people breathe in. The county is working with an entomologist to find a solution.
The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is training a new batch of deputies.
But as Olivia Richard shows us, these latest trainees are a little furrier than your average recruit.
To most dogs, sit, stay, fetch might seem like a backyard trick, but for canine pups like Ollie, it's part of a job he's been training his whole life to do.
We set the foundation from a young age that cooperation with humans is always beneficial.
George Danielos trains most of the puppies for Maricopa County Sheriff's Canine Unit and says danger and risk are just part of the job.
You need a really stable animal and you need an animal that's highly motivated.
Once they're born, training starts almost immediately.
Start doing things with puppies at day 2 of life.
Once they complete training, it's on to the academy where the pups are paired with their police partners. The training doesn't stop after graduation. Yankee might seem calm on the outside, but his human partner, Zach Herrera, says it's all a facade.
NATO, he's chaos, is what he is. He's controlled chaos, is what I like to say.
Yankee is a dual detection dog, trained specifically in narcotics and apprehension.
Marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamines. He's trained to detect all 4 of those.
As a member of the force, even when he's off the clock, he's always honing his skills.
It's not a 5-day-week job, it's 24/7. He doesn't get anything for free. He has to work for everything.
While it's a lot of work being paired with a police canine, Herrera says it's the bond that makes it all worth it.
Comes together and you're put in a situation and your dog performs the way you want it to. It is like your kid, watching your kid score a touchdown or something like that. It's the best.
In Phoenix, Olivia Richard, Cronkite News.
Danielos trains most of the dogs on Maricopa County Sheriff's Canine Unit, but he also trains dogs for personal protection. Shaking windows and loud takeoffs are just a few of the things that disrupt the residents of Phoenix historic neighborhoods when the FAA changed the flight paths for Sky Harbor Airport. As Madison Miller reports, after a 3-year legal battle, the FAA plans to meet with the residents about the noise issue.
We've had a variety of impacts in the neighborhoods. We've had windows rattle and shake. We've had difficulty in having conversations outdoors. It's really hard to have outdoor experiences.
Residents of Willow, FQ Story, and other historic neighborhoods filed a lawsuit over the FAA's flight path change. That brought Sky Harbor airplanes over their homes. Last August, the D.C. District Court of Appeals found in favor of the neighbors.
Part of the complaint was that they didn't give the community any notice when they changed the flight paths originally in 2014, and the community did not have an opportunity for any involvement.
Now the FAA is holding 3 public meetings for the residents to learn more about the changes and express their opinions.
And people will be able to view some basic videos about how air traffic control works. They'll be able to see the changes that we're proposing.
Neighbors hope the plan means the neighborhood will once again be peaceful.
Picnics, quiet time, reading a book outside. I mean, this is the time of year where we want to be outside.
Not only will the FAA attend the workshops, environmental specialists will also be there to answer any questions or concerns. In Phoenix, Madison Miller, Cronkite News.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickenburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
A bill to completely ban photo radar cameras is up for a vote at the state Senate Capitol this afternoon. Reporter Nicole Gutierrez is back at the Capitol to track the latest on House Bill 2208.
We're here outside the House of Representatives, where there is an expected vote on the bill. So far, there hasn't been any action on the bill that has raised concerns on safety.
Most of the time, I feel like I don't even notice them.
Red or green light, they're never off.
A lot of people keep speeding anyway.
Paradise Valley Police Department says they see these cameras act as force multipliers.
Photo enforcement can take the place of several officers. It's a very cost-effective tool to reduce speeds and increase traffic safety while not having to add more officers, which can be very expensive to the taxpayers and the residents.
According to the Paradise Police Department, these cameras have helped slow down drivers and prevented accidents.
With the population increases, the distraction increases in town, we had 208 accidents last year compared to 430 years ago. After we put those speed signs up, we saw our traffic citations go down 40 to 60% in those locations. For us, that's a win. For us, it's all about behavior modification, slowing drivers down.
For Representative Grantham, who first proposed the bill back in 2016, says these cameras don't serve their purpose.
It's actually being shown in many areas to cause more accidents than it prevents. It's turned into a massive revenue generating tool, which is why towns like Paradise Valley are so interested in keeping photo radar.
Photo radar cameras in cities are a statewide concern, according to Grantham.
Only affecting the citizens of their town, but they're affecting everybody who has to go through their town to go from point A to point B.
Drivers like Tolton say they've seen cameras go off at wrong times.
I've seen them, either they're working when people are not obviously accelerating the speed, or maybe it's another car that causes it to go off and then it's a secondary car. So I'm not a big fan of them.
This legislation comes up every year, so it's not a new thing for us. What we really want people to get across is, for us, this is about traffic safety. It's not about revenue.
And anytime you privatize law enforcement, you really incentivize bad behavior. What you basically have right now is you have private industry profiting off of their ability to issue more and more tickets.
We're still in standby. In Phoenix, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
It's a tough choice. Take a new job far from home or face unemployment. That's the decision facing hundreds of employees of the Navajo generating station. Cronkite News reporter Jamie Fossenkemper was at the state capitol today, where the workers were rallying to keep the plant running.
And I'm here for the long haul, and I'm here to battle, as long as you guys will battle with me.
Myron Richardson, welding supervisor for the Navajo Generating Station, was one of the hundreds of union mine workers, tribal members, and families from northern Arizona who marched to the state capitol today. They wanted to show their support of keeping the power plant near Page up and running. According to Salt River Project, the Navajo Generating Station has provided electricity to millions of people and businesses in the Southwest for 47 years. Last year, officials from the Navajo Nation and Salt River Project decided to shut down the plant.
But over time, it just became very clear to SRP and the other owners that operating the plant beyond 2019 did not make economic sense.
But the union says that decision puts hundreds of people out of a job.
Where is the nation going to be in the 400, 600, or however many jobs that are there? Those jobs will be very hard to replace.
Going forward, SRP will be providing jobs for those affected by the shutdown, but those who choose to take the Salt River Project up on their offer will have to leave Navajo County.
And if SRP is trying to provide jobs, yeah, I'm interested, but I really like to stay right where I'm at.
In Phoenix, Jamie Fossenkemper, Cronkite News.
Those who choose not to leave Navajo Nation will be offered severance packages.
Schools across the U.S. face the challenge of incorporating new technology into their curriculum each year. But for rural areas that lack sufficient access to broadband, a much larger issue is at hand. As part of our Access Across Arizona initiative to bring you news from every county in the state, Cronkite News reporter Megan Meyer takes us to Yavapai County and an elementary school in Congress, Arizona, to see how they have tackled this broadband access problem.
In a small town just outside of Prescott, the simple luxury of internet access can be difficult to come by. But now, with funding from a federal E-rate program, Congress Elementary is able to move its students into the digital age.
I use technology every day in class.
Congress, Arizona. Population 4,821, and residents only have 1.5% of the FCC's recommended bandwidth. That's made it hard for students in Caitlin Hunt's first grade class to connect and use technology. But the nonprofit group Education Superhighway is helping schools find resources to increase their internet access.
By utilizing this federal funding, we were able to put in a request for fiber builds out into communities that have never received it before.
Just last year, Yavapai County's request was approved. The county received $1.8 million from the FCC's E-rate program. Already, the money is helping students close the internet access gap.
For them to be able to take initiative to walk around the classroom with the QR code app and be responsible and independent with that, I mean, I think that is just rewarding. You can tell they love technology.
The tools you see being used by students and the Wi-Fi that keeps them running at fast speeds are 80% paid for by the E-rate program. This has allowed many schools within Yavapai County to bring in new devices.
That's wonderful. Good.
To find that mechanism that we could pay for this and finally bring the broadband out to these locations, I feel like we've really accomplished the mission that we've set out to do about 5-6 years ago.
This is a day and age of, where these kids know how to run tablets and they're 6 years old and they enjoy that. They don't even know that they're learning.
In Congress, Megan Meyer, Cronkite News.
The project to bring fiber lines over mountains and under railroad tracks for the Congress Elementary District allows homes and businesses to connect to the lines as well.
The Senate Transportation and Technology Committee passed a bill that would ban using wireless devices while drivers are operating a motor vehicle. Reporter Emily Richardson explains why the 11th try may be the charm.
In 2013, Brendan Lyons' firefighting career was ended when he and his fiancée were on a bike ride and got hit from behind by a distracted driver.
My own agency responded on that scene. I was told in the very beginning they didn't even recognize me, but at a brief moment they were stunned, realizing that they were treating one of their own.
Almost 5 years later, Arizona still does not have a statewide law banning cell phone usage while driving. Lyons attended the SB 1261 committee hearing yesterday to share his story and hopes that Arizona becomes the 48th state to ban texting while driving. He was joined by Jonathan Hall, whose dad was killed by a woman who was on her phone while driving on the freeway.
My dad was my hero, and losing him just is terrible.
and it's still terrible. This has been almost 2 years and I'm still doing this because something has got to change.
State Senator Steve Farley first introduced a texting while driving ban 11 years ago and thinks this is the year it will finally pass.
This year provides a great opportunity. I think there's a whole different spirit here in the legislature where we can put any of those old history things aside and just legislate common sense.
If passed, SB 1261 would make it a petty crime for drivers to read, write, or send electronic messages while behind the wheel.
Hall is optimistic that the bill will become a law and save lives.
Down the road, someone else is going to suffer this, and maybe this law would prevent that.
In Phoenix, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
Airport noise that disrupted historic neighborhoods near downtown Phoenix may soon quiet down. The first of 3 public meetings between neighbors and the FAA over Flight Pass was held last night. Madison Miller reports an end is in sight.
We are very encouraged and we're very pleased that our voices were heard and they understood how disturbing it really was.
There was a packed house at the Maryville High School last night at the FAA's open house about the new flight paths at Sky Harbor Airport. The neighbors won a lawsuit filed against the FAA for changing the path of planes flying out of the airport without notifying residents first.
In co-hosting these workshops with the city was just to have as many people come out as possible so that as many people as possible are aware of the changes that we're proposing to make.
Looking positive from what I've seen around here today. It's put a lot of work gone into it.
Larry Mack, a 10-year resident in the Encanto Manor neighborhood, says he's hopeful for the future of his home and soon will be enjoying his time outdoors once again, now that the flight paths will return to what they were in 2014.
That would sure be nice. That would sure be nice and appreciate it because it'd be about 4 years into it then. So yeah, I think that's time.
In Phoenix, Madison Miller, Cronkite News.
A new bill in the Arizona legislature would require doctors to ask patients who want abortions why they're getting one. Cronkite News reporter Jamie Fossenkemper is in the broadcast center to explain this piece of proposed legislation. Jamie?
Senate Bill 1394 has support in both chambers of the legislature. Its goal is to require doctors who perform abortions to obtain the reason for the abortion, but some are pushing back against the bill.
This is a classic situation of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Jody Liggett from Planned Parenthood of Arizona is adamantly opposed to SB 1394. If passed, doctors would have to indicate why their patients choose to undergo abortions. They would need to cite a specific reason, including economic reasons. The pregnancy was a result of rape or incest or relationship issues, among others.
This is a continuation of trying to erode the rights of women to make choices for themselves.
1394 doesn't just allow doctors to kind of, interrogate patients as to their reasons for abortion. It actually compels them to.
But Kathy Herod from the Center for Arizona Policy thinks this bill will make it easier to acquire data about abortions in our state.
Simply trying to define better why women are having an abortion, exactly what complications may be occurring from abortions, and that will enable, regardless where you are on the issue of abortion, but policymakers, healthcare professionals, pro-life and pro-choice people to better meet the needs of women.
If the woman refuses to answer, the doctor must indicate that on the report back to the health department, which Liggett says creates more problems for women than less.
Something that sounds like a regulation that is intended to protect women's health and safety actually does the opposite.
However, Herod feels that the information that would be provided would benefit women.
Data is always good in any area, but especially in the healthcare field, to understand what's happening and how to better serve women.
Current law requires doctors to report to DHS if an abortion is, quote, elective or due to maternal or fetal health considerations.
An effort to get veterans off the streets and put them in tiny houses is underway in South Phoenix. Reporter Emily Richardson was at the site to show us how these homes are coming together.
Building a foundation for a tiny house and for a new life. Build Us Hope is an outreach program providing long-term housing for the homeless. And their latest project, building tiny homes for veterans.
Having an address gives you a sense of identity. It gives you a point where you start your day and a destination at the end of the day. Housing is everything.
This morning, Charlie Ellis and multiple volunteers began laying down the foundation on 3 microhomes near 13th Ave and Buckeye.
This is just one option of ending homelessness amongst veterans by providing housing. That is the solution.
Elizabeth Singleton, founder of Build Us Hope, says she decided to make foundational housing for veterans because while working with the homeless community, she found a high amount of them had served. Their current plot only holds 3 tiny houses, but the goal is to build around 1,200 homes on 98 acres in the valley.
I hope to be the guy who's building all the tiny houses out here with Elizabeth.
Ellis encourages volunteers to come help because he enjoys teaching others.
I love people who don't know what they're doing, coming out, they scratch their head. By the end of the day, they feel a sense of accomplishment that, wow, I built it.
A lottery system will determine who moves into the first 3 homes.
I'm looking forward to is handing over the keys because that'll kind of bring it full circle.
The first 3 houses should be completed by the end of the month. In Phoenix, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
Singleton hopes that Build Us Hope will have enough money to start their next plot in a couple of months.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For more multimedia coverage, go to cronkitenews.adpbs.org and click on the Government and Justice tabs.